Hello and welcome to another episode of The Reluctant Leader. I am your host, Gajinda Bogle, aka The Reluctant Leader, and I am joined today by Rohita Pabla. And I am so excited by this long overdue conversation. Now, before we start, Rohita, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Rohita Pabla from Rohita Pabla Wedding Events. I have been running my company for about 8-9 years now, and we do anything from full planning to on-the-day coordination, large scale events in the UK, and we've become a UK renowned wedding planner. And the team has grown over the years that we've been building, and we're at some of the most prestigious venues in the UK as a preferred supplier as well.
Ooh, love it, love it. So, Ro, tell me, have you always wanted to be a business owner?
Good question. It's always been in my blood, to be honest. I've always been I started working when I was 14. I always
Oh,
had like my
wow.
own money coming in. To be honest, I've actually never not worked since I've been 14,
Mm.
but only when I had my children. Um, it just, to be honest, I know everybody probably says this, but I actually fell into being a wedding planner and running a wedding and events company. So I actually did my degree in buying to be a fashion buyer and worked for M&S for about 7 years, from right at the beginning of being an admin all the way up to a buyer. And I actually just fell into the events industry through certain things that happened in my life. So yeah,
Oh,
but
wow. So how does one fall into the events industry? What happened to make you think, yeah, wedding planning is it?
yeah. Um, so I've always been kind of the party organizer. I always want everybody to be together. That's my biggest thing. And I was basically working for Marks and Spencer's, and my buyer, who was English, was sat next to me. She was really stressed, and I just said to her, I said, Emma, like, what's wrong? And she just said, I'm getting married in like 6 weeks, and I've literally got fabric lace as a material. I haven't even got a dress. I haven't got a concept. I haven't got a theme. I haven't got a florist. I'm really stressing out. And obviously, at that time as well, retail was really stressful. So
Mm.
I said to her, can you give me a weekend to put together a proposal for you on like how much it would charge to have an on-the-day coordinator, how much is it going to charge to have a florist, because I knew somebody that could come and help do like a few centerpieces for me, put a proposal together. And then on Monday we literally just snuck to the canteen. She had a look and just said, I've got to have you. I know what you're like. So yeah, she basically booked me. So I did her wedding at Finsbury Town Hall, and then everybody started talking in the office. And then I started an Instagram account. So I put her pictures up, and then my designer, who was Indian, said that her cousin needed help, and she was getting married at Pinewood Studios. And it was just a snowball effect. So it kind of went
Wow.
word of mouth. And also, when I started, I'm probably showing my age, there wasn't that many coordinators. So, they had the planners, and they didn't have many coordinators, especially in the Asian market. They weren't really too sure about, who are these people? Why do we have to pay for these people? And
Mm.
then after people started seeing me on events, it was a word of mouth um, snowball effect. And then within a year, um, things happened at work, and I decided that I'm not just going to be a number anymore, and decided to leave.
Wow, within 1 year. And
Yeah.
you talk about planners and coordinators. I don't think I know the difference either. What is the difference between a planner and a coordinator?
Um, in terms of like the difference, both of them have the same skill sets. I think what I mean is that we do on the day coordination, which is just on the day, and we come in for like 4 to 6 weeks prior to the event, and that might be for a couple that really want to get hands on. They want to do the
Mm.
negotiations, they want to do the design process, but they don't want to have the stress on the lead up. So then what happens is that then we come in, and then when I say a planner slash like full planning is when we come in right from the beginning. So as soon as they get engaged, they then contact us and say, look, we want you to fully plan our wedding from, you know, start to end, basically.
Amazing. And so before this point, before you started to plan and coordinate your first wedding for your friend, did you have any experience in planning or coordinating weddings?
Not with weddings, only with like like just basically family gatherings. I would always be the one that's like, "Come on, guys, let's get together." And
Wow.
I'd put that kind of out there, and then we would get together. But prior to starting, the only thing I was doing, which my partner at the time, now husband, was that I was on Pinterest and I was always pinning wedding things rather than fashion. And on Instagram,
Mm.
I was always looking at weddings and not fashion. And he made the comment of, "You're never, you're never pinning any fashion things." And I always had the in my mind with fashion, it was always like it's what you make it, not what we as buyers dictate you what to wear and what the fashion catwalks tell you.
Yes.
It's what you make it. So I already had that kind of head on in terms of like with fashion. So then, yeah, on Pinterest, I was always just pinning wedding things, and it kind of just made me think, actually, there's something here that I'm not looking into.
Mm. So, Ro, I want to understand something. Had you had your own wedding at least by then?
So I'd had my wedding
So
the
before you had your first client, had you
no,
got married by then? So you hadn't even got married. So you didn't even have the experience of having your own wedding by then,
yeah.
which is incredible. Now, there's a lot of people that would, and there's probably a lot of people listening as well, that they
Mm,
would listen to this and think, didn't you have any mindset issues like around imposter syndrome? Like, who am I to
mm.
organize somebody else's wedding when I haven't even experienced a wedding or ever done a wedding before? Did any of that stuff kind of go through your mind?
I think yes. At the beginning, it was about people taking you seriously,
Mm,
but I have always been that kind of person where I am who I am,
yeah.
and I can talk to people, and I think that kind of helped the whole process. And any planners that do come to me, or they seek for working within the company, or they come to me and they say they want to start, I always say you do have to have strong shoulders to be in this industry.
Yes.
um,
Yes.
for sure. So no, it was just kind of my wedding ended up happening within like the first 1 or 2 years when I started dipping into it. um, but yeah, I basically I got married the year after. I was doing more stuff, and then just decided, actually, I'm going to leave. And when I did leave work, um, I left and I didn't actually have any bookings in the diary. And we went on this amazing holiday for like 3 weeks, which was our honeymoon the year after we got married. And when I landed, I had a missed call. And that's when they started to come in. The bookings started to come in. So yeah, it was very coincidental how it happened, and everybody said to me, "Are you crazy leaving your job?" But I just
Mm.
knew it would come in, so I just knew I needed that time away, and when I came back, things would start to fall into place, and then everything started happening from word of mouth.
How incredible. I love that. So you were able to completely pivot your entire life and go into something new.
Mm.
And is there such a thing as like wedding planning qualifications or anything like that? Or do you literally just learn on the job and bring experience with you?
So I'm very much of a person that likes to learn while I'm doing it. I've never been very academical. Even when I was at school, I was always into the art side of things more than like the maths and English. So I think um, with going into the wedding industry, for me, it was very much of like it was hands on, and a lot of people don't know
Mm.
about the background. As in, I haven't paid thousands to do a degree, but what I think is priceless is I've actually worked with you know, my first kind of desk space that I rented was in a catering office. So, being sat there with the caterers and seeing what they were doing, and then them saying to me, "Actually, do you want to come on a couple of jobs to help us?" I was learning on the job. I've worked in a decor company. I've had desk space in their office, so I get to see things, I get to hear things. Then they asked me to come on jobs, so I've seen the like logistics side of it and actually working in it. So for me, I think that's priceless compared to going to pay
Yeah.
thousands and going to get a planning degree from somebody, because I think you don't know unless you're actually in it and
It's
doing
that
it.
practical side, isn't it?
100%. And that's the thing with with wedding planning, it is a lot of practical. Like on the day, it's, you know, people won't see what you do until something happens.
Something goes wrong.
So yeah, so for me, I didn't have a degree. You know, started from word of mouth, and I just learned on the job. And again, like I said, I learned from the caterers, I learned from, you know, well-known established decor companies, and then worked like that. So I've kind of seen all elements. And I actually used to work in a hotel when I was 15. So, you know,
Wow. So you've got a bit of that knowledge as well.
I've got a bit of the hotel knowledge as well, for sure.
Amazing. So did you ever think when you were younger that you would be planning weddings for a
No,
living?
I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. So unlike kind of like typical Asian family, my mum never kind of pushed me to be a doctor or a solicitor or anything like that. She was very much like, you do what you wanted to do. And to be really honest, I just knew I wanted to go to university. So what I actually did was I got a map. I drew a radius because I didn't want to move too far away from my mum, because it's just me and my mum. And I drew a radius. I didn't want to be more than an hour and a half away from her. And in that radius, it came up with the universities that were available. And then I started to look at the universities of what they could offer. I went to their open days and I walked away with their brochure, and I literally I literally looked through their brochure and I put sticky tabs on the courses that I found related to me. And my mum actually walked into the lounge and was like, "What you doing?"
That is, what were these courses?
So it was retail buying in fashion,
Ah, okay.
um, and then forensic science. So that's what I'd kind of narrowed it down to because I love that kind of crime stuff.
Well, yeah, what a contrast.
But then I actually looked into, like, I didn't even know there was jobs as buyers. But then, you know, if you think about it logically, who buys everything? You know, that plant behind you, somebody would have
Yeah.
actually sourced it,
Yeah.
negotiated it, brought it in, and brought, you know. So that's what really excited me about being a buyer, and also that it was something different, and it had endless possibilities of different areas to work into. So that's kind of how I fell into it, really.
Wow. So you always had the aspirations of kind of going into fashion, really, because that
Yeah.
was where the interest was. And does that come into your business now?
Um, I think only like by me. You know, kind of when I turn up for events, I'm not a black suit, black trousers kind of girl. They very, you know, I very much have my own style. And then I think it's just the attention to detail. So even when it comes to like the linens and the napkins, and you know, one of my bugbearers is, you know, when we do on the day coordination and potentially the client has just gone with white linen and it's not been ironed properly or it doesn't touch the floor, and that's where my OCD comes out. But yeah, and also I think it's just trying to get people to kind of push the boundary a little bit and do something that's a little bit different, hence what we would have done, you know, in the fashion world as well.
What has been one of your most memorable events that you've ever run that you will never forget?
Oh wow. I've actually, because I have been doing this for a while, there's been different ones. One that I really, really loved, was actually at North Mims Park, which is a manor house. But it was more about the transformation of what we did in the marquee, because I think that really showed us as a company, and
Mm.
obviously me as a planner, of what we can do, and we're not scared about pushing the boundary. So, you know, it is kind of a white marquee, but our client said to us that they want a party in the evening. They don't really want a sit down meal, and they loved Hakazan. So we brought the jungle basically to North Mims Park. There was no round tables. Everybody walked into basically a band that was stood on podiums. We had huge tropical trees. We had a tiger on the dance floor. You know, it's something that nobody had
Wow.
ever seen.
Yeah.
And again, I'm very much about experience. I want people to walk away from my events, Rohita Pabla events, and think, wow, never been to a wedding like that. We had so many people that came up to us to say, I haven't seen some of my uni friends in so long. The fact that I could grab a cocktail and then just go to the live food bar and grab a Lebanese wrap and stand and talk to them, rather than being put on a round table and there's speeches and, you know, there's time constraints. they loved that kind of free flow.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one wedding that I would never forget. And also the couple were just great in terms of letting like my creativity flow, and they were open to my crazy ideas. So the dance floor was actually a print from a scarf. So actually, when you say about fashion, that probably does come into
That
it.
comes through in like the decor and the details that you
Yeah.
add in.
So we found a scarf on somebody's Instagram that a designer had designed, and we actually contacted them, and um, with the decor company, we actually contacted her, actually paid for the rights. The client paid for the rights for that print, and we used that on everything. So the dance floor, the butler,
Wow.
that print is ours.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's so original. I would not have thought about, not even thinking about doing it, that there
Yeah,
was a even possibility of being able to do something like that. And I
yeah,
guess that's one of the benefits, right, of having a planner and a
yes, 100%.
coordinator rather than just doing things yourself.
Yeah, I think some people think that there's, you know, anything can, well, to an extent, anything can be possible, but it's just bringing ideas forward, which I think sometimes the couples are
Mm.
led to believe isn't possible. So it's not possible to bring in linens. They have to have just the white plain ones. Um, no, if they want to have tablecloths made in India and flown over, we can do that.
Yeah,
Obviously,
and that's true. You sometimes don't know. You just go with whatever the venue gives you and think
yeah,
that's all the choice you have.
yeah,
Amazing. Oh my God, there's just so many possibilities. And, obviously you've identified a really good example of a wedding, but we know the reality
mhm,
is that emotions are really heightened during wedding periods. And actually, you've got the potential of a lot going on. We've all heard of bridezillas, we've all heard of, like, mother of the bride, mother of the groom, and all of these kind of challenging personalities that you might experience. How are you still in the wedding industry?
um, I think, and obviously, I've spoken to you about it as well, but I think, like I said, you have to have strong shoulders.
Mhm.
You have to take everything with a pinch of salt, and you always have to remember that actually, like you said, there's heightened emotion at that present time. One thing I actually do love about what I do is that it's kind of a project base. So I get to know this couple, we do form a relationship, but then once the event is done, they are then left to kind of, live their married life. And then, obviously quite a few of them we do stay friends with as well. But it's, I have had some brides that said to me, can't believe that you coped with me. And afterwards they're like, oh my God, we've absolutely loved you. And how have you managed to keep with it? But I think it comes with life experiences of
Yeah.
being able to deal with certain people as well. And then also growing the team over the past 2 years, so that I don't have to kind of deal with everything all the time. I'm always there, but we manage it as a team together, where before everything was on my shoulders.
And that's really important, isn't it? So, if you want to carry on doing what you love,
Mhm.
you've got to kind of let go of the things that you don't love and let
Yeah.
other people pick those up.
Yes, as you've told me. Yeah. Yeah.
As I've told you loads of times.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess, why is it so important for you
Mhm.
to create these magical experiences? Because essentially that's what they are, right? These weddings are magical experiences for all of those people involved. And sometimes you do go through a lot, and we will get more into this. You do work long hours, you do have to take yourself away from your children. But so why is that magical moment, that wedding experience, so important to you that you're able to sacrifice a lot to make sure people have the best experience?
I think because I've been on that journey that they're going on. So,
Mm.
they're just starting that journey of getting engaged, having those conversations with parents of who's going to pay, who's not going to pay, why do you want to pay that amount for, that. And also, it's a lot of money that some people spend as well. And as a planner, well, as a company, we are very considerate about our clients' budgets. We're not actually planners that are very much like, we like to blow, we'd like them to blow double the amount, because it benefits us. That's not how we work. So we're always very mindful of their budget. And again, you know, they've worked very hard for it as well. Again, you know, after the wedding's gone, I hate to say it, but it is one day. So if they can have the best experience and it's something that everybody's talking about, for me, that just makes it like worthwhile rather than it being like, oh, that was exactly the same as their cousin's, you know, event that they went to a couple of weeks ago. It had the same centerpieces, it had the same kind of flow. So for me, that's why, you know, my biggest thing is making sure that every event is as special, different, and unique as it can be, and not just like any other wedding, because it is a costly event in their life.
Yeah, a costly event, and also something that a lot of women I know and a lot of parents that prepare the majority of their lives for. Like, you know, I know, especially in the South Asian community, a lot of parents start saving from the moment their daughter's born. They start saving for her wedding, which is massive, you know, and that could take them 20, 30 years of saving money to make this one day
Yeah.
really, really special. And how does it feel for these brides and these families when you've given them such an incredible experience?
A lot of the messages, especially over the past like 2-3 years, have been very much like, we couldn't have done it without you. And the reason why I say that is because I found that the trend has changed. So before, when I first started, it was very much the parents were funding it. Everything had to go through the parents. Past 2-3 years, it's actually the couple that are holding the cash, and they've worked really hard for it. So they're now seeing how their parents potentially would have felt, like giving them the money.
Yeah.
So they're very much about, you know, afterwards, like, we couldn't have done it without you, and we couldn't have made it as special as it was and stress-free if it wasn't for you.
I love that. That's so, so lovely. And I know, I don't think I even had a wedding planner at my wedding. Obviously, it's different with the person I got married to, who was the equivalent of having a wedding planner. But, you know, I can imagine, I know how much stress I went through.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that there were such things as wedding planners. I didn't even know they existed. And this is going back like 12, 13 years. Now, Ro, we've spoken about the amount of money that people spend.
Yeah.
How much do they actually spend? Like, what is that amount? Like, what is the crazy amounts of budgets that you deal with on weddings right now?
So us as a company at the moment, we deal with anything from 100K all the way up to big figures. You know, kind of 250,000. But I
Wow.
think
That's the
like,
budget for their wedding.
yeah. But a lot of our clients do it over 2 days as well. Not that it's justifiable, but yeah, it
That
is.
makes it all right then.
So they do it over 2 days as well. But again, a lot of our couples are, you know, they run businesses themselves now. You know, they are a little bit older as well. That's what I'm finding over the past couple of years. They're a little bit older. They run their own businesses. They're in, you know, very good jobs and, you know, very stressful jobs as well. Hence why they come to us. So they have that disposable income to pay for those weddings. But in terms of like average spend on a wedding, we have seen that grow and change. You know, when I first started, we were looking at, you know, you could do a 1-day nice wedding reception around the 40K mark. Now it's kind of hitting those, you know, at least a 70K mark. You know, for a nice day for a wedding and a reception.
It's nuts, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
It's crazy.
Absolutely
It is.
crazy.
But
Yeah. So, Ro, talking about your journey then. So, you weren't even married when you started your business. How did you find that dynamic change when you actually did get married? Because there's lots and lots of long hours involved with events, and especially with weddings, there's a lot of travel involved as well. So, how did that dynamic shift when you actually got married, or was there a shift?
No, there wasn't. And I think the reason being is I've always been a social butterfly ever since I've been younger. I was always the one that if somebody said to me, "Oh, we're going for dinner in like, and it's an hour and a half drive," I would do that hour and a half drive to go
Okay.
to that dinner. So, like, driving long distances for me or staying away does never really phase me. Even to this day, it doesn't phase me. When I tell my friends, they think I'm absolutely crazy. They're like,
Mm.
tomorrow I'm flying to Scotland, just for a site visit, and staying over the night. Um, so I think obviously that helped because that's how I was as a person, very social. I traveled a lot. If my best friend lived in London, so I was always in London. And then with my, when my partner met me, he knew that's how I was. And at the beginning, he actually did on the day coordinations with me to help at the
Did
week.
he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, how cute.
And again, everybody in the industry knew us for that. It was always both of them. But then as we grew and the brand grew, and we had our first child, I knew that we both couldn't be away, and I also knew
Yeah.
this is not how I didn't want it to be a little bit of a like husband and wife team. I personally didn't want that for my business.
You didn't
Um,
want it to be Rohita and Nav Pabla
no, no.
events.
And he's got his job, he's got his career as well. So we kind of made that decision of actually we both can't be away for our daughter, and you're
Mm.
going to do it, and you're actually going to start to get event managers now that come on the events with you to do it.
100%. So, looking at that a little bit, because me and my husband done something very similar at the start,
Mhm,
where he's in events as well. So it was like, you know what, you do the events business, I got a job, and we always had that stability. So, you then did have your first daughter,
mhm.
and you have touched upon it a little bit. Obviously, the with their Nav staying at home, there wasn't as much of an impact. But how did it feel for you? Because you've actually had two children now
Mhm.
doing your events business, and actually you've got busier and you're doing more events, and you're even going abroad now for events. So
Mhm.
actually your business has grown just as your family has grown. And how has that dynamic been for you?
Hard work.
Mm.
A lot of organizing. So every Sunday, me and Nav sit down and we basically plan the next 2 weeks of who's going to be where. He also travels with work. So
Wow.
this year's been crazy. Like, we've just come back from a trip, just us two, which was so lovely. And while we were there, we were just reminiscing of the year and just thought, we can't even tell you how many flights we've been on this year alone. So he was away a lot in, like, Jan, Feb time. I think he did six trips in literally probably 6 weeks. Um,
Wow.
while I had both children, but then when it's my busy period, he then won't travel. So that's what's really good, obviously, with the
Mhm.
weddings is that they are in the diary. We know what's happening. We have a really good family support system around us now as well, which has been fantastic. And I couldn't have done this year without them. But I just knew when I had my second child, I wanted to stay in the game. When I had my daughter, I very much took a whole year out, stepped back, everything stopped. The brakes stopped on everything. And it was potentially not the best thing I did because it was very hard to kind of come back into the industry.
I really do get that. And I guess I feel it's quite similar to when you've got a corporate job and you leave for maternity leave. It's hard to get back into that again as well.
Yeah.
And I guess it's just the same with business owners, right? If we do take that time out, we have to take the time to build that momentum up again. So
Yeah.
what did you do differently when you had your second child compared to your first? What did you actually do differently to keep that momentum going?
I went back to work after 4 weeks.
Wow, no.
Yeah. So with my daughter, I kind of, went on mat leave. I didn't have a team. I wound down, had that time with her. And I remember, and I use this example a lot, but I remember kind of going for a drink with somebody in the industry, and it was a gentleman, and he did say to me, "So what are you going to do now?" And I did say to him, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, you had a child." And that kind of made me think, well, it doesn't make me less of who I was, because again, I was a big character before being a mum, and I was a businesswoman, and I'm not going to let that go and
Yeah.
become mummy full time. I did kind of lose myself a little bit. I say lose myself, probably I just became a full time mum. So when I did come back to the industry, like having those conversations, just an adult conversation, was really hard. And then I knew I needed to get myself back, and I did certain things. I went on um, like events kind of to help me, and then I got back into it, and then COVID hit, and then it was like, right, this is supposed to be my comeback, and now
Yeah.
it's COVID. Thankfully, because we didn't have any bookings, we were okay. We had a few, sorry, which we tweaked. And then I kind of was like, right, okay. And then I was started on other things, and started rebranding. And obviously, I worked with you. When I had my son, I knew that I basically knew I had 6 months before the wedding season started. So in those 6 months, I needed to give him quality time, spend time with him. But my first wedding was in May, and it was actually the North Means Park one. So I had him in November, and in May I had my first wedding.
Wow.
I did a site visit, I think it was like January. But even my team then, because I had somebody that was working for me, she even said that you can't help but look at your emails, and that's me. I love to work. I thrive off it. So yeah, I went back quite soon with him.
Wow. And do you know what? Sometimes we look at people and we kind of feel sorry for them. That, oh my God, poor you, you had to go back to work after 4 weeks and whatever. But I guess you're showing us a really refreshing side
Mhm.
of it's actually not a forceful thing. It's not
Yeah.
like you're going back to something you hate doing or you don't want to do. It's your passion and it's your original baby, right? It's your
Yeah.
first baby. And what did you learn from, or, you've done both now. You've done taking all the time out in the world. So you've took the whole year out and then you've taken like just a few weeks out. What have you learned from both of those experiences that you could potentially give as advice for anyone else?
I think if I did the first time round again, I would have had somebody there, like a team member, whether
Mm.
that's like a senior wedding planner that could just kind of run things in the background still. In hindsight, like I said, with COVID, it was probably good it didn't, because we would have been booked up and then we would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, everything happens for a reason. And I got to spend that amazing time with her. Well, actually, it lasted over a year and a half to 2 years. Um, but that's the one thing I would have done, is potentially have somebody there that could keep everything going in the background, to do things. But it has taken me a long time to learn to let go as well.
Yes.
So
I think
only
that's a
now
continual journey, isn't it, as a business owner? I don't think we can ever, truly ever let go. I'm sure even Richard Branson sitting on Necker Island is still checking his emails.
yeah.
We never ever let go. Amazing. So, Ro, what is in store for your future? What are your future plans for Rohita Pabla Wedding and Events?
It's funny that you say that, because that's what the team said to me
Oh,
yesterday.
did
They
they?
said, "Oh, what's kind of the strategy for next year?"
Mm.
But a lot's happened this year. Like you mentioned, um, we went abroad, so I actually got invited to go to Abu Dhabi to be a guest wedding speaker on their
Ooh.
stage, at their wedding show. So that's kind of maybe open doors for us to kind of go into the UAE to do weddings. To be honest, it's not always been something that we've kind of looked at, but having that opportunity, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of things have changed this year, so it's kind of just identifying what you know which area we want to concentrate in more. And the thing is, I always want to stay true to Rohita Pabla Wedding Events. We're not a company that's here to churn out you know 40, 50, 60 weddings a year, to do multiple weddings over the weekend. We're not here to do that. So we just need to identify kind of what that kind of looks like going forward.
Mm.
We still want to give that extra service that we do to our clients, and just maintain that as well. So yeah.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see what is in store for next year and beyond. And I guess kind of like the last question
Yeah.
where before we kind of wrap up. But is there anything that when you were younger, you really felt like you were going to do when you got older? Is there anything you felt, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do when I get older?
You're gonna laugh when I say you already know this. Like basically I'm a bit of a property junkie because Ginger already knows.
Ah,
So
so is that from when you were young as well?
yeah, it's literally been from
Ah.
when I've been young. So I've always been into like crimey stuff and always the fashion and then the houses. So I'm kind of
Ooh.
dipping into all of it. But yeah, when I was younger, I always kind of said, I'm gonna have a house, I'm gonna buy a house, I'm gonna do it up. Um, kind of how I see it now is give people that home that they wouldn't have been able to if they were to do it on
Mm.
their own. So yeah,
Ooh.
that's the
So
one
could
thing.
there be some Rohita Pabla house styling and stuff coming along as well? Because I guess you done that for your own house, didn't you? When you bought your current house, you
Mm,
actually done it up yourself. You took over your own interior design
yeah,
and made a really beautiful house. So that could be something on the horizon.
potentially,
And I
potentially.
guess with weddings, there's
Mm,
lots of it's seasonal, isn't it? So,
yes,
even though we do start having a lot more weddings in winter now, as well as in summer, it
yeah.
is still quite seasonal where the bulk of it is in summer. So, actually, what does a wedding planner do for the rest of the year?
So it's funny that you asked this question because I actually had a huge list, and you know how I am being organized, of what I was going to do around the house when the season kind of ended, and haven't managed to do any of it because literally as soon as the season finished, we just had lots and lots of
Mm.
inquiries. So we've actually got weddings in March. So it
Wow.
is starting to expand out a little bit, and people are coming to us within just having a year to plan. So to be honest, we've actually been working. So this whole period, we've actually been working. We had a lot of things that we wanted to do, like, potentially like either like refresh our website and things like that. And we haven't had the time because we've got our full planning couples already for next year and we're working on their wedding. So haven't really had much of downtime, to be
And I
honest.
guess, yeah, we underestimate the amount of site visits and all of that stuff that happens leading up to the big day. Like you mentioned, you're going to Scotland tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's a big lead up, isn't there, to the big day?
Yeah, and that's for a client who's flying in, so they don't even live here at all. They live in Alaska, so we've never met them. They've flown in. They're flying in today. We've got meetings this evening, tomorrow, and then in Scotland. So, again, we are very much of a hands-on wedding planners, and we very much get involved. Um, you don't email and then not hear from us for a week. We very much are in touch with you all the time. That's probably what makes us very different, I think, as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that. I love that. So, Ro, thank you so, so
Oh,
much. Thank you
so
so
well,
much for joining us. It's been amazing. And I have known you for a number of years,
a very
but
long
I
time.
still learned so much new stuff today as well in our conversation. I'm probably going to message you after and say, what?
I know. I keep some things up my sleeve,
You
so
do, right? Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for joining
you're
us today. And thank you for sharing your journey with us. And I think, one of my biggest takeaways here is that if you believe in something and you believe you can do it, just go for it and don't feel you need any qualifications or you need anything. You can learn
there's
as you go
so
along.
much learning out there.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is ask questions. Everything you do, just ask
Mm.
questions. And to be honest, that's one of my biggest traits. I'm really inquisitive. So that's probably helped me along the way as well.
Yeah, incredible. Honestly, it's so amazing, so inspiring. And I'm so excited to continue following your journey and see where your business and your property journey goes. Really, really looking forward to it. So
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for joining us. And if anybody did want to reach out, so if they've watched this and they did want to reach out, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Um, Drop us an email and then we can set up a consultation call or a call over coffee. And then yeah, that's the best way. And also follow us on Instagram because we are always posting like hints and tips and our offerings on there as well on a daily basis.
Amazing. Thank you, Ro. So that is at Rohita Pabla Events on Instagram. Ro, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
for joining
you.
us. And thank you to everybody who has watched this conversation. We really, really appreciate you guys supporting us and listening into these conversations as well. So thank you guys so much, and see you guys soon with another fabulous guest speaker.